Now, before I even get started today, I got a bunch of email from Luciano showing me the parts he got for his cafe racer. And this is the one I want to see, because when he comes over with the tank, he's going to be bringing a tank over in a couple of days and the side covers to do the paint. Now, it's going to be tricky because he's painted it with Rust-Oleum. I don't know if that's going to work for us. Obviously, we'll figure it out. But I was wondering how this seat would look on my RD, among other things that he's got. And this is even the coolest thing of all. He got a set of these remote reservoir shocks, and I would love to have these on my RD. And supposedly they're very inexpensive, but he didn't tell me the price. But I know he's going to buy them for me in return for painting his tank. So, Luciano, just order 2 sets. Stop being a baby. So now we can start today's work, now that I've got that email from Luciano out of the way. We're all into cafe racers. Now, I hadn't even finished the FZR yet. He's already got a new project started for me. Anyway, that's the way it is. Nice seat. So thanks to Luciano for those pictures. He's getting me inspired to start thinking about my cafe project for next year. But we got a big project today. It's snow coming our way, so here's what I needed to do. What I wanted to do before the snow actually makes the whole driveway a mess out there, what I wanted to do is get this outside turned around so I'm working on the front of the bike, because I'll want to do some work on that fairing and the headlights and blinkers. So the first thing is to get this out of here and turn it around. Sometimes I think it's like being a farmer. You got to march all the barnyard animals around and put them in the truck and whatever here. Actually, one of the shortcomings we have in this shop is not a lot of room. We're always moving things around like a car lot here. There is nothing more fun than sitting on a bike in a garage when it's about 15 degrees and there's no seat on the bike. That is a true joy. Now, this is a nice view you have of the pond. I got to chop ice and I see a couple of snowflakes coming down already. Not much, but we're due to get a couple of days of this. So having this stage will be a big advantage. Now, sequencing up the day, if I don't do this and we get an inch of snow, I got to push this out into the snow and wet and ice. And so having this all staged up now, no matter what I'm doing, this is going to make this a lot easier, because basically the 2 things I'm going to be doing, putting a fairing on, working on the blinkers and the lights, and then at the end of that whole operation, I want to pull the front wheel, start with the wheels, paint the front wheel, get that done. I do 1 wheel at a time, all the time, and then jack the back up and do the back. And I always say, not much changes a bike. Number 1 is the paint job. Number 2 is the wheels. And we can do both of them. Now, after speaking to several people, including Karen, who had the final vote, she always has the final vote, she reminded me of something, that if I do the gold up against the yellow, it's not going to stand out as much as the black against the yellow. And I came out to the garage and I said, she's right. So more than likely I'm going to abandon the gold wheels and probably go with the black, similar to this, black with a yellow stripe. Now, a lot of people don't realize that's not tape on there, that's paint. So I want to paint that stripe on too. I don't want any tape on it. So now we've got the bike in the right position for pulling it apart, doing the work we're going to be doing in the next week or so. And last year, I believe it was last year, we did the R1 wheels. All those videos are still out there for anybody who really wants to paint some wheels. Actually, if you change your own tires, the way I do without using wrenches and tools and stuff, and that's out there too. It just makes the option of having painted wheels a lot easier, because you don't chip the paint up. So today it's all about the sequencing. It's going to be all about trying to use this day efficiently. Now, the little problem today is we're going to have a split day. I have about an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. But I did spend, I'll confess, I spent a lot of time last night looking up on the computer for cafe racer ideas, because Luciano's got me psyched about a cafe racer for next year. And one funny little thing that I get from time to time whenever I complain about the cold, my good friend John Pothier, who helped us with the decals among other things. He served some of his military service in North Dakota, and he has that dialed into his computer. So every morning he can see the temperature on the Air Force Base where he used to serve. This morning I saw the screenshot. It was 21 below. I think I'll go have my coffee. Yeah, you can see what's happening. We already got a couple of snowflakes here, and I'm sure by day's end it'll be just one more adventure. But we got the bike in the right position now. That's going to be a big help. And the last thing I have to do is chop some ice here. Karen's yelled out that coffee's ready. That coffee is so good in the morning. Oh my God. So it gives me, once I have my coffee, a little time to sequence up what I want to do today. And that's so important when you have limited time and resources. So as I'm sitting down here and I'm sequencing things up, my daughter sends me a picture of Miles today, my grandson of course. They have a bad hair day at school and he bleached his hair Yamaha purple or something. I wish they would do that to me. Yeah, I think I'd look good with purple hair. A great way to start a day. So I'm looking around and I'm trying to think. I've got about an hour now before I have to head out. So, other than drinking 5 more cups of coffee, this I think would be the most productive use of an hour. I can get the inside of this painted. That basically, once that's dry, that finishes these 2 parts. Now see, sequencing this up sometimes is tricky. Then what will happen is these 2 parts are ready to put on a motorcycle if we ever get that proverbial warm day. And it doesn't look like it's coming really soon. But you never know. See, I remember in years gone by, on Super Bowl Sunday, I went for a ride. I almost missed a part of the game because that was just turned out to be a nice day. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to have any of those this year. Looks like we're going for one of these Arctic things. So I will get the inside of this painted. I wanted to go back because this worked out great. I'll show this on a close-up. And I've used this on other things inside the fairing or parts that I didn't want to really see. The brackets that hold the fairing, sometimes it's just a part you don't want to see. And this has worked out to be good stuff. Now the advantage of it, when we did the other part, it's water-based. So as I get up, because I want to make this edge really crisp. So what's going to happen, if some of it drips around the edge, which you know is inevitable, it's not going to ruin our highly buffed out finish that we have a lot of hours invested in. So having it that it's water-based also means I can touch it up really easy. If it gets scratched doing the assembly or something, just get a Q-tip and touch it up. Anything flat touches up very easily. Now, this is one of the little details I'm sure a lot of people will never see, but it's these kind of little details that when you look down inside the fairing and you don't see something that I don't want to see, and I don't want to see anything shiny in there. As much as I don't really like flat black, this is really the right thing to do. Now see, what's nice about this is that it's water-based. If it wasn't water-based, right now I'd be getting ants in my pants. In fact, getting ants in my pants anyway here. Let me, I want to show this real quick. Roll up a paper towel here and just get that edge. And see, some wood, there's always a little bit that would be a problem. And I don't want to have any problems. But, yeah, I wonder in North Dakota right now, yeah, that's, once it gets crappy out there. But we are supposed to get a couple days of snow. But over this winter time, actually over this whole restoration, we have done an amazing job of sequencing that I don't know if you're just watching these videos while you're having your coffee in the morning or whatever. Or if you've just said, who the hell's going to watch the rest of this restoration? I don't know. Whoop, there we go. Exactly while I'm talking. I didn't want to do this on purpose, but I just wanted to show that. And by the way, by having flits on the other side of this, it probably makes, even if I had some of the urethane or something drip on there, I probably could get it off. I don't know. I don't want to put it to the test. But anyway, whenever I'm doing a job like this, a good valid point, something a lot of people never think of. I think about it a lot.
But when I've introduced the idea to other people, they act like I have, like, why didn't I think of that? The world of motorcycles is very unique to me. You can have people that enjoy riding various types of bikes. Everything from motocross bikes, dirt bikes, drag bikes, restored older bikes, cafe bikes, which, whatever. And the nice thing about it is you're basically free to do what you want. You don't have to, if you want to have one of each, and that of course is my goal, and I don't really have a real cafe racer now, a bike that is kind of unusual, but the more I think about this RD thing, I don't want to buy another bike because then I got to register it and do all this stuff to get it historically registered. But I know I can make this kit up, because this idea has been in my mind since I did the Evil Twin project. I'm kind of thinking the Evil Twin concept is a good idea for an RD. You make a whole set of bodywork for a bike that you've already registered, you already know has a strong engine, you've already done all the engine polishing and painted the wheels and everything, and now if you just make another set of bodywork, look how nice that came out. Wow. And see, that little bit of paint would have been a problem if it was oil-based paint. But just by switching over to bodywork or to tank or whatever, I think that's pretty cool. And if I remember right, maybe I'm not remembering right, Glenn had a Ducati that he, a 1098 that he had black bodywork for and red bodywork. And all of a sudden one day he shows up, hey, you got a new bike. And it was just the bodywork. But I think that's a cool thing. So anyway, and it works for me because I don't have to re-register and buy more bikes and everything. And one day, you switch the bodywork and you got a new bike. Anyway, here's what I want to do. I'm going to do the outline of this. Again, I only have an hour here. And then fill in the inside. But the most important part of this whole thing is to get those edges really nice. And once all those outlines are painted, it's just a question of filling in like a paint by numbers. But it's getting all these edges around. Now, when this is totally dry, I'll take a little bit of the compound and just go with my thumb and a microfiber right around the edge, because I really want those edges to be crisp and I want to be able to look down into the fairing and not see anything shining back. We're done with that on the sequencing list, and we can move on to the next step when we get back. Now, that's going to take about 15-20 minutes, maybe a half hour to get dried up and to be flat. While it is, I'm going to go relax, have the rest of my coffee, and check out some cafe racers. Now, what I always like is when I have a couple of minutes and paint is drying, in this case, or a few minutes in between parts of the project, just looking up cafe races for some ideas. Always a good way to spend some time. Now, the nice thing for me is it gives me, I'm always looking for ideas. That's always the prime thing. I see something and I want to incorporate it into my project. Now, I remember when Luciano did his 650 Yamaha track bike, I made the seat from scratch for him. And I'm probably going to have to do it for this project. But I want to get some ideas. It's ideas that really always just make me think of possible things I can do here. Now, my idea of having a bike like the Yamaha that I have is relatively stock tank and seat. And what I wanted to do is have a custom tank and seat, like a combination of parts that I could put on, take off, and basically in one day convert the whole bike back to being stock, but not cut any of the frame up, or obviously in this case made major modifications. And because I can make any seat I want, see, these people have to compromise, and I know what this is like. You're doing a cafe racer and you got to buy a seat off the internet or something that it's going to be uncomfortable. There's not enough, not for my ass anyway, on that seat. But I know I can make something, because I've made enough of them already. Something like we had for Luciano's 650 would be really nice. And the really nice thing about any of these cafe bikes is you're free to do what you want. You don't have to follow. Look how this guy blended in the taillights in two little scoops on the side. That's a nice idea.
Now, I had thought of something like that, but, you know, it's not like you get paid if you get the idea. It's okay to steal somebody else's idea. And no matter what, if you have a modern bike, an old bike, it doesn't even matter. You can customize it. You can make it, I think, very unique. But I always like the option of just being able to put it back to the way it was very quickly. See, now to me, what's nice about the RD, that GS gas tank fits right on there. It's such a little work that it's almost like it's made for it. But then coming up with the seat, and I've got several ideas. But again, I'm going to have a whole winter to do it. I'm sure I'll come up with, and over the summer I'll come up with some nice concept sketches. And with that kind of a project, you're always free. Nothing is out of style. Now this is interesting because I know Luciano just got an exhaust system for his the cafe project he's working on, which we're going to see in the next couple of days. He's waiting for the paint to dry right now. Yeah, there's an endless amount of possibilities, even in cafe racers, that try to make them look like they might be race bikes with number plates and stuff. It's just an endless supply of ideas. So we are going to try to come up with something cool. Meantime, I want to see if that paint is dry. Yeah, it's drying up nice. A little more. That's going to add a nice little dimension to the motorcycle. Now, it's going to be these edges that I want to take a little bit of that compound on a microfiber, and I want to get that edge as nice as I possibly can. So this is the final thing that I want to do on this part, and absolutely this part is now ready. And even though we've really been taking our time on this, but see the final little part of this, that edge, I want to see that as you look around the corner, and I'm trying to do this before this paint would really have a chance to super harden up. But anyway, we do have some family errands to run, and I got this done ahead of time, so when I get back I can well, see what the next thing on that priority list is. But that whole edge you're going to see, and this whole back edge, and it's truly a small detail, but it's one that I want to have as nice as I can. And around this little, I see a little paint got around the edge here, and it comes right off. It's a stroke of genius. But anyway, I do like looking at those cafe racers, and anytime I'm sitting having a cup of coffee or relaxing or waiting for paint to dry, waiting for glue to dry, whatever, I'm always excited to see what other people have in mind. Always willing to see if it's something I can use on one of my projects. The biggest thing on this project is going to be the seat. And Luciano's going to bring his seat here, the one he got for his bike. See, I can always start with, and I did it on Ray's or the 350 restoration. We started with some kind of a part of a seat, and then I built the side covers off from scratch and attached it all up. Anyway, it all worked out great. A cafe racer is a cool thing to add to your collection. And in my case, I want to have one of each. I don't want to have 6 sport bikes. I don't want to have 6 touring bikes. I want to have them. I can't ride dirt bikes anymore. I'm just too old, too cranky, I guess. But the things that I can do, street bikes, as Jose is so correct in saying, the minute you go out the driveway, you're having fun. That's a good way to look at it. And there is something very unique about motorcycling. And pretty much everybody wants to have their bike a little custom, a little bit different for them. They want to put their mark or their stamp on it. And in our case, being able to paint things, being able to change wheels out, being able to do minor modifications. And the main thing is keep these old bikes running. It's a labor of love keeping them running all summer. Well, the side fairings are ready to put back on a bike. Now, it's just one of the things that I think about. When we first pulled the paint off of those parts, and I saw how bad the bodywork was, and then to look at them now, that's... if you've followed along with our little adventure here, for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter, of course, that to me is pretty impressive. Well, as we run out to do our errands, believe me, it doesn't look like the snow is amounting to much, which is in my favor. So what happened is our snow became rain. We got faked out, but we got plenty of snacks to get home and work on that fairing. All right, finally back from a great shopping errand trip, and here's the next thing. And I've been waiting for a long time to get this part of the job done. I've thought of a lot of different things I wanted to do, but today's the day I'm going to get to see if they work. Just to go back a bit, these are switchback bulbs. John Pothier found these on the internet for me. And what happened is we did a test. They look like they're going to work great. They change from extremely bright white to extremely bright orange with the blinkers and the running lights. So what's going to happen, and I've already done the test with these out of the fairing. I want to see how these are going to look when they're in the fairing. But to do that, I have to mount these pieces. Now, here's the problem. They only have a reflector on one side. See the reflector on that side? But that's okay. I'm going to make a reflector for the other side. I have an idea how I can do that. Not a big deal, relatively easy. Now, it just turns out, and you can't make this up. This was originally an FZR taillight. When I cut it up and chopped it up, and of course we did that all in a previous video, I realized it's almost perfect. It'll fit right exactly. Just, you can't imagine how close this fits. I don't even need to shim it. It just needs to be epoxied in place and then make sure that the bulb is working. But the anxiety that I had, I wanted to make sure everything is going to fit and I'm going to be able to change the bulb from the back just by pulling the fairing side off. The wiring part of this I'll do at some future time, but I want to get the sockets mounted into the fairing, and that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Now, being honest about this, I thought of several ways of doing this. The original lights I had some AutoZone high intensity, basically running light bulbs that fit. I ground this out a little bit so they'd fit nice and snug in there, and that worked out great. It couldn't have been a better choice. But I didn't have a blinker on this. The blinker was in the mirror. The mirror I didn't like. It was in the front of the mirror. It kind of looked hokey to me. I didn't like that at all. And so when I changed the mirrors out to bar end mirrors, I said, ooh, I have no blinkers. But I was going to restore the bike a couple months later anyway. So now is my chance. Now, the first thing I did, I measured where these sockets are going to go. And I want to, well, let me just see if this is going to be, if I can show how. It's really important. This bulb is a smaller diameter. See, it fits right in there. Look at how that fits. Do you believe that? So then what I'll do is I'll make a little reflector piece for over here. I need to epoxy that in place. Now I'm going to get some slow drying 5-minute Brodak epoxy, get a little bit of it mixed up, and then once it dries, the plan is to see if I can conveniently take the bulb in and out. Because again, I don't know with the motorcycle here, I'm probably going to have to reach under the fairing and get in there and do it. Well, but we'll see. Or in the worst of all worlds, I'm going to have to do some other magician trick to do that. So this is a really good high quality epoxy that you can get from Brodak, Brodak.com. And it's perfect for what we're going to do with this. We're joining two dissimilar materials. So the first part of this is to get plenty of epoxy on here. And this is 5-minute cure epoxy. And it's a good high quality epoxy. It's not the bottom of the line stuff you usually buy commercially. This is made for model airplanes, formulated, and it's really good strength. This can be used really effectively even with carbon fiber. So here's what I need to do in the meantime. It really is going to be a little bit of a nuisance. I got to stand here and hold this for about 5 minutes while the epoxy cures. And then I'll reinforce it, of course, with some carbon fiber or something. But anyway, that's not the whole reason for this, showing this on video, is just how lucky this is. Now, I admit, I am a shit saver. And the problem with growing up poor is you save everything. You think like a nuclear war is going to come and you'll never be able to have another this or that or whatever. And I'm certainly guilty of that, but now I got to find a way of holding this. I want to see that the bulb is right in the middle. Oh boy, does that work out.
You can't believe how perfect if it's what I have to do is sit here for 5 minutes. And I was going to tell a funny story while this is dry, and see, I can make sure it doesn't move. I have saved every part for every motorcycle I've ever restored. I have about 10 cabinets outside loaded with parts I'll never use again. Complete junk. But every once in a while, like these bulbs, there's something in there I need. And then I usually don't have it. I have to go buy it at Motorcycle Mall anyway. But boy, I am guilty of being a shit saver. But I did get to use that FZR taillight. Now, once this tacks out, I'm not going to leave the camera on. Once this tacks out, then I can really get a look at how this is going to play out. I can look at the bulb lit up and everything. Now, all epoxy goes through several stages. It's liquid in the beginning. When you mix it, it goes to a state called cheese. Cheese is when you can still move it. It's like thick peanut butter that was in the freezer. And then it goes to the third stage where it becomes like a rock. It crystallizes. Epoxy wants to always go back to being a crystal. So here's the thing now. It's still at the cheese state that I can move this ever so slightly. I can get a fine tuning on it. And I'm just holding it. If I put heat on this, heat always accelerates the cure. If you want it to cure, if you want to tinker with it before it cures, it's a very easy thing to do. Go out in a cold garage. If you want it to dry quickly, put a little bit of heat on it. Yeah, that looks like it's past cheese now. Now it's where it's going to stay where I put it. And so if I use CA to do this, what would happen is the CA would kick instantly. And then if that's a little crooked, I couldn't really get it back. So the epoxy was the best way, I think, to do this. Now, I always do this also. This is the little piece. I just mixed that. I can see that that's past its cheese state now, and it's hard. Now we're ready to do the other one. And it's all sanded down and left rough on purpose. And I'll be able to get the fit and get that just an exact replication of what I did on this side. Exactly the same thing. So the first test, it passed with flying colors. The bulb comes in and out relatively easily. I don't know how much of the motorcycle is going to be in the way, whether I have to do this to that to replace the bulb. But supposedly LEDs never have to be replaced. So, and let's face it, how the hell long am I going to live? I'm waiting for the epoxy to dry. I put a little carbon fiber reinforcement in there, but basically this thing is as solid as a rock. I just don't want to have to repair this, God knows, 10 years from now if I'm still alive. So I just try to get rid of some of the sharp edges. That's got to dry overnight, but it's solid now, so you can pick up the whole part by that. That's the main thing. I don't want to have to replace that. The bulbs go in and out, and that's the main thing now that, well, right now I got to figure out how these are going to go in. Once it's on the motorcycle, that might be a little tricky. I don't know. These are the things I have to still figure out. But anyway, this one, let's see, these line up here. Tricky stuff, baby. Well, there's a trick to it. But they do go in. Oh, it's got to go under. Here it is. It's right there. You would think I'd be smarter about doing this. Nope, doesn't go that way. There it is. Who said he's not that smart? So what I want to do, I want to just do a basic test of the bulbs, but these are available from superbrightleds.com, and they were $11 a piece. Now, because these are switchback bulbs, what's going to happen? They're going to, when the blinkers are on, they're going to be orange bulbs. Now, I know you don't really see it on this video, but they are really bright bulbs. These are really cool. Now I have these on the tail lights of several of the bikes, and they all came from that company. I think when those blinkers go on, that's going to be really good. Looks like all the bulb circuits have tested out okay. We've got lights, we've got blinkers. It couldn't be any better than this.
Now, I did not really realize this feature of the bulbs. But now watch what happens when I put the blinkers on. Watch what happens. It shuts the white part off. It shuts the white part off and goes to yellow. As soon as you leave it apart, you shut the blinker off, it goes right back to being white. I think that's pretty cool. Those are called switchback bulbs.
So again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. These bulbs are really bright.